Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisom with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the words Spot and Media. In his last few days as head of the Area 2 Police, Fitz is taking the media to task for harshly criticizing members of the force for corruption. TVJ's KRISTA Campbell has that story.
Assistant Police Commissioner Fitz taking on the media for what he deemed too harsh a criticism of the police force.
What we are asking for as a force, as an organization, some level of balance and fairness.
The Area 2 Police head was particularly upset over a statement he said was made in the media that the Jamaican police force is the worst organized gang. He said the comment was made in relation to the recent arrest of a uniformed police sergeant who was caught in a truck with illicit drugs.
What I find very unfortunate about that the member was arrested by police officers who believe in the maintenance of law and order and to uphold the dignity of this organization. And when you hear the response within certain elements of the media, you wonder what we must do as a police officer. When you sit around a microphone, you carry a wide reach. You have great influence and great power. I don't think that power should be used and abused.
But ACP Bailey maintains the police will not be daunted by the criticisms. He urged members of the force not to hesitate in exposing their colleagues who are corrupt, noting that it's part and parcel of a force drawn from a society facing its own ills.
We can't take 3 or 6 months in training to transform people that have been cultured in a particular way. And so it is sort of foolhardy to believe that we can create a perfect Jamaica constabulary force.
KRISTA Campbell, TVJ News.
As the Clarendon Police try to tackle the increase in crimes involving youngsters, a new program has begun to target at-risk youth. More in this report.
The population in my various lockups, they are from certain schools in the parish.
That revelation by head of Clarendon Police Vendolin Cameron Powell while speaking with TVJ News on June 22 this year. 1 month later, over 150 troubled students from different high schools in Clarendon are at this function, learning how to deal with issues which often lead to violence. It's a school intervention program targeting youth at risk from volatile communities in Clarendon.
Well, most of the kids come with a lot of anger, and most of them are self-centered, thinking about themselves only. It's my chair, it's my space, it's my this, my that. So what we have seen now, persons are learning to cohabit in the same environment and realize that it's one mission.
In recent times, youngsters have been linked to several wounding cases, robberies, as well as other crimes in the parish. But how will this program actually help?
What we do here is we help them to realize who they are and try to be true to themselves. In spite of all the negative things that are happening around them, they can still be the change, be the example.
The Office of the Children's Advocate is also involved.
Many of them, they were not very receptive at first to the message that we were bringing, but what we did was we made them feel like we understood what was happening with them. We tried to align the mandate and the vision of the agency.
One child we spoke with shared his experience.
I've learned about how to control ourselves, miss, and how to get away from anger, miss, and things, miss, like that, miss.
Giovanni Dennis, TVJ News.
A shortage of dentists in Jamaica is having a severe impact on dental care. Chief Dental Officer Dr. MCKENZIE told Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee that there are only 254 registered dentists in the island. The ratio is 1 dentist to every 11,000 persons, and in St. Mary, it's 1 dentist to every 28,000 persons.
The majority of dentists are concentrated in our urban centers, which like Kingston and St. Andrews, Spanish Town, Montego Bay, Mandeville. Most of Jamaica are considered to be a dental shortage, professional shortage area.
The shortage, he says, is partly because it is very expensive to study dentistry. Although training is ongoing at the University of Technology and the University of the West Indies, Dr. McKenzie says the shortage will continue for a while. An assurance has been given by National Security Minister Robert Montague that there will be consultations with various groups in the penal system before prisoners are allowed conjugal visits. This includes correctional officers who have concerns about the move. In addition, Mr. Montague says that no decision has been made about when conjugal visits will begin. He spoke with our news center.
The whole matter of consultation is not ready, and I don't want persons to go away from this discussion believing that this is going to happen tomorrow. It is not going to happen tomorrow. We are still formulating the policy, but it is one of many policy options that are on the table, and we will be doing more and more consultation. But again, I welcome the debate that is in the public space because it is instructive and it helps to guide the policymakers and those who formulate policy within.
The Jamaica Federation of Corrections says before conjugal visits can take place, the infrastructure of prisons need to improve. And the National Security Minister has responded to criticisms that his focus is in the wrong area. Mr. Montague says several facilities are being upgraded, including the Tampering Farm Correctional Center, where a building is being constructed for correctional officers.
Rehabilitation at Tower Street as well as St. Catherine. We have built out already at the Richmond Farm facility a waiting area for members of the public, for the families who are coming to look for the inmates, so that we are trying to improve the facilities not only for the public but also for those who work within the system. We have restored the cell phone jammers. We have engaged in a lot more training courses for our correctional officers, including sending some overseas. And we have now in the procurement process of purchasing safety equipment.
The National Works Agency, NWA, says it will have to replace the Woodside Bridge in Jacob's Hut, Clarendon. The bridge was damaged during heavy rains which affected mostly the Mineral Heights and 19 miles area of the parish.
Having done our analysis, we have taken a decision that the structure is to be demolished and a new bridge erected.
NWA Communications Manager Stephen Shaw says plans are in place to fix the Pumpkin Bridge close to Pennance, and work is still being done to address the erosion of the Maypen Bypass Bridge.
The good thing about this structure is that it is founded on piles along with the two abutments. But clearly significant erosion has happened, and this erosion didn't just happen in May. It is something that we have been noticing for some time. We did some work about 2 or 3 years ago when we noticed that the piles were being exposed. Clearly, more erosion would have happened.
The Ministry of Labour and Social Security recently gave flood relief checks to residents of Douglas Castle, St. Anne. Member of Parliament for North East St. Anne, Shahini Robinson, says the checks are for persons whose lives were severely affected in May by the torrential rains.
Today's relief distribution is only limited to a few households in St. Catherine and St. Anne. Those that were severely impacted, we estimated to be about 45 households. Other persons and those in other parishes will be notified where they can collect when their checks are ready.
Minister Robinson noted that there should be more emphasis on reducing Jamaica's vulnerability to natural disasters. Since Jamaica is a tropical country, she says the country will experience more heavy rainfall.
This means that our focus will have to be on reducing disaster vulnerability. It is the same communities that are being impacted over and over again. And based on the results, recurring disasters keep those communities poor and vulnerable. Because if every time your crops are washed away, your animals are washed away, your house is affected, you have to spend more, it keeps you poorer and make you more vulnerable.
Jamaica is on course for a record-breaking year in the tourism sector. That's according to Portfolio Minister EDMUND Bartlett, who was speaking yesterday at the contract signing for Conference Management and Executive Services. He said for the first half of 2017, tourism arrivals and earnings have seen an increase over the corresponding period last year.
Tourism revenue earnings is estimated at 1.84 billion, have increased by over 8% for the first half of this year compared to last year. The country welcomed 2.517,674 visitors up to the 21st of July this year, which is 4.8% higher than the corresponding period last year. And the earnings, which is now at 1.8 billion, is 8.8% better than last year to date, which means that we are on track to earn for this year $2.8 billion US, by far the largest contributor to the foreign exchange of our country.
Mr. Bartlett said tourism contributes an estimated 4% to Jamaica's gross domestic product.
Tourism remains one of our few labor-intensive sectors and directly employs over 106,000 Jamaicans, while generating indirect jobs of another 250 Jamaicans. That is, 1 in every 4 Jamaicans is employed or connected with tourism.
In news overseas, thousands of Venezuelans are rallying for a second day against President Nicolas Maduro's regime as it prepares for a national vote next week. Hours after a national strike on Wednesday, the U.S. Treasury Department announced it is slapping sanctions against 13 Venezuelan government officials. We go to the CNN for details.
The fear here in Venezuela is palpable, with many wondering if their country is at a tipping point. President Nicolas Maduro has called a referendum vote for Sunday, a vote that the opposition claims will give him substantial new powers to essentially act like a dictator and erase any trace of democracy here in Venezuela. Nicolas Maduro says that he will continue to go ahead with this vote despite the fact that the White House could now be a game changer. President Trump saying that he is promising swift economic action if President Maduro continues to go ahead with this vote on Sunday. Now, we have to remember that in the meantime, Venezuelans are still trying to get to those very basic necessities of life every day, trying to stock up on food and medicine that has been so scarce now for months and months. In the middle of all of this, Nicolas Maduro says he doesn't care about opposition threats or White House threats. He will go through with his vote on Sunday and says what cannot be achieved with votes, he will achieve with weapons.
And in sports, the race for the JFF presidency has gathered more momentum, with former CASAFA President Stuart Stevenson entering the contest, bringing the number of potential candidates to 5. Details in this report.
Nominations are set to close on Tuesday, August 1. The 5 candidates met with the St. Catherine FA on Monday as they made last-ditch efforts to boost their chances for the seat at the higher office. First up to meet the 13-man executive committee was St. Anne FA President Danny Beckford, who entered the Ariane's restaurant, the location for the proceedings, at 7:10 p.m. He was out 45 minutes later after making his presentation.
We have been here and been the first person being here, so we thank St. Catherine FA again for the opportunity for their hearing us, and I should think all being well, we'll get the nominations and we'll move forward.
It was tossed out into the public domain by Michael Ricketts that Raymond Anderson had given up the race, but the current JFF Vice President made his entry at 8:07 p.m. He gave a 45-minute presentation as well before making his exit. He didn't give an interview to TVJ Sports. Ricketts was next to face the panel as he made his way into the restaurant at 9:02 p.m. On his exit 45 minutes later, he was confident of getting the nod to fulfill his ambitions.
I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic that I'll do well, and I'm expecting to be the president after the 16th of September.
Craig Butler should have gone in immediately following Ricketts, but he arrived late, hence cutting into Stuart Stevenson's appointed time. Butler wasn't able to give a full presentation in the 20 minutes allowed.
It affected my ability to present because I brought a PowerPoint presentation. But the current system, what was happening in the corporate area, there are issues, there are traffic jams, and there are also some violence on the road. But hey, you know what? I got here, and that's the important thing.
Stevenson, who earlier pulled out of the race before deciding to return, got his chance to impress. And impress he did, according to a TVJ Sports source. Stevenson not only presented a way forward for the JFF, but also stated that under his stewardship, every parish president and general secretary will receive a monthly stipend. And TVJ Sports understands that the stipend could be $250,000 monthly for each president and $125,000 each for the general secretaries on a monthly basis. He left without giving an interview to TVJ Sports. Peter Reid is the president of the St. Catherine FA.
Some of the presentations were very to the point, some were not. But as you know, in presentations, you have different styles, and the board, listened and looked at how they presented themselves. And the board has looked and discussed, and will be finalizing the decisions, but it will be finalized and we'll be doing what you have to do.
And while the public waits to hear who they will be backing, TVJ Sports further understands that the pendulum is swinging in the direction of Stevenson, who is also gaining traction from other parish presidents. Jordan Fort, TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.